Good morning, Delaware, and my co-host, Molly Meyers, LaBadie.
Good morning.
And Gage on the board. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
It is Friday.
It is.
I have no idea what day of the week it is anymore, ever.
What
Neither do
is
I.
happening?
What's going on?
We had the most amazing week this week. Stay tuned next week.
We
We're
did.
going to have a giant announcement that you are going to want to tune in for. So there's your tease. But this week we had Neil Shusterman in Delaware, and it was wonderful. He was in Delaware City Schools Tuesday and Wednesday.
Oh, accolades to your team and to Kelly, our youth services manager, and accolades to everyone involved in that.
It was just a fantastic evening. As I mentioned, as I was giving his introduction, this has been in the works since 2019, and I was so happy to see it come to fruition because I didn't even know that there were even forces in the works that almost made it not happen again. And I was like,
Do I even want to know?
No.
Okay, let's not ever tell me.
Nope. And then that evening, Wednesday evening, he had a public speaking engagement for all the entire public, parents and students of all ages at Olentangy Liberty Middle School. We just have the best partners in the entire world.
We really do. And things always go better when you're working with partners. They always go better.
They really do. And Olentangy Liberty Middle School was an excellent venue. We were so happy to work with them. And if you haven't read anything by Neil Shusterman, which I learned that I have been mispronouncing for
I'm
3
listening
years.
to you very carefully.
Yeah.
And making note in my own head that it's like shush.
Should or would, like sh, like, yeah. And it's a hard vowel. I'm sorry.
I know.
So, but speaking of partners, in the second half of today's show,
I'm so excited.
We are going to have one of our favorite friends call in, Sean Miller from the Delaware County Emergency Management Association.
One of the nicest, most with it people I have ever had the honor to work with.
Yes, and so Sean is going to be talking a little bit about like how in the world does a county EMA partner with a county library, and so you'll
all
find
the
out.
time.
You'll find out about it. So before we get into that, let's talk about what we've been reading or watching or listening to this week. Molly, you said you have something a little creative
I'm
today.
kind of excited about this. So I have been on a bit of a reading slump, and I was like, well, what am I going to tell them about? All I've been doing is watching Yellowstone, which, by the way, you can reserve in our catalog. It's a TV series right now going on. Yellowstone is set out in Montana, and it's one of the largest ranch owners really in the country, possibly the world, and it's their struggle to keep their ranch, and it's their family history and their family honor, and it is full of characters. Now, this is not a PG show. This is not a show to watch with your kids.
Hey.
If you're squeamish, maybe not a show. I'm actually squeamish, but I do pretty well through squeamish things because I love the intense emotional feelings.
Like a little kind of gory.
Gory.
As far as,
The very first episode, don't give up on it if you start it. If you're an animal lover, it's a little hard. The first scene in the first episode is really, really hard.
That's how I felt about Breaking Bad. People were like, I love this show. And the first episode was very intense. And I was like, I will not continue watching this show.
And you don't really get your characters till later. It's a love for animals, for land, but it's also the reality of the meat industry and the dairy industry, and that sometimes things are hard, and that living out, being cowboys, they're cowboys, and I mean they are cowboys.
Okay.
Now the main lead in this is Kevin Costner, which Lloyd says I need to stop every time he comes on screen going, but he should already know this because he danced with wolves. That's not appropriate to say every episode. So just fair warning, people out there, if it's in your head, just keep it there. Maybe say it once. It was really funny once, but keep it there after that.
It is good.
He was not wrong. The characters, though, you get so in. You don't, you hate everyone. And then you're like, but maybe I like them. And they start pulling you in, and then they're like, no, I hate them again. I hate them again. And then you're like, oh, no, maybe I like them. And it's just sort of the push and pull, of course, overly dramatized. I'm pretty sure any actual cowboy rancher is going to tell
Probably
you it's
not that
not
dramatic.
this
Yeah.
dramatic. But it's about power and control. The great thing, though, is they've also done these prequels, 1883, and they're airing 1923 with Harrison Ford.
Okay.
So I've been turning it into a space cowboy thing, but there is no space involved.
So you were saying that it's on air right now, but there are also DVDs of past
There are DVDs
seasons?
of the Yellowstone and 1883, because those are two different series. 1883 is the founding family, so who founded the land. And then 1923 is set in the 1940s. So it's
Okay.
the family moving forward. So you start to see the history of the ranch and what they've had to do to keep it, why they believe they have to fight so hard. But what I also wanted to talk about today is Libby. I was on Libby and I was like, okay, I'm not going to have time to read a whole book today.
Yeah.
No. Like last night is when I was thinking this. But I was like, but I'm curious. I wonder if there is any Yellowstone stuff. So other than seeing you can get the DVDs from our library, I got on Libby, and there's one of those behind-the-scenes photos and secrets. And I'm not going to lie, I own the Outlander one. But it's where you get all the information, like they went to cowboy camp to learn to ride horses, and they have to rope cows, and they have to know how to do all of that.
To make it believable.
So they lived out in a camp tent, so they had to feed themselves. They had to, with real cowboys, to learn to do all of this to make this realistic. It talks about the history of the actors, how the actors feel about their characters, goes into, there even is a section on how you can dress like a proper cowboy with like prices and where to go get them. And I'm like, oh, maybe I can be a little Yellowstone for Halloween this year.
Good cosplay
or
idea.
every day. Maybe I'm really a cowboy and didn't know it. Except for the fear of horses.
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
When I was 10, I went to Girl Scout horse camp, and my dad took us horseback riding the day before. This is a Rube story. Get used to Rube stories. And weekend before, he's like, let's go ride moose. And that was my nickname as a child.
Oh, I thought you were going to ride a moose.
No, we're going to go ride
like
moose because
that's
that's me. And so we go out to my grandparents' farm where somebody was keeping their horses. And I remember asking him, Dad, do you know how to saddle a horse? And he just looks at me and he's like, of course I do. And he puts the saddles on and we get on him. And then I'm like, oh, can you slow down for a second? He kicks the horse. We go running down a hill. This is Southern Ohio, so we have hills. And we're going through the field, and these horses are just tearing off. We have no control. My dad's saddle breaks because, no, he didn't know how to saddle a horse. He falls off in the field. My horse turns up the hill. My saddle is now on the side of the horse. I'm staring at a tree coming at me real fast. I let go of the horse.
Oh, there you go.
And just fall off. I have like a couple scratches, but I am not injured.
That was the right choice.
3 years later, we realized Dad actually broke ribs. And I went back yelling at him, are you okay, Dad? Are you okay? And he doesn't say anything till I get there. And then his first words to me are, carry this saddle, Moose. And I had to carry his saddle all the way back up the hill. So we all were, other than he did survive his broken ribs there.
Yeah.
And I went to horse camp the next week and refused to get on a horse.
Yeah, as you should have. So what we've learned is you should not be a cowboy, but if you
should be a cowboy, absolutely can get over that.
But if you want to be a cowboy, watch Yellowstone.
Yes.
Reserve the DVDs at the library, and then get on Libby.
And
then
read all the behind-the-scenes stuff in a magazine.
So you search for Yellowstone. Okay.
And it's like one of the first things, just flip through. You'll see Kevin Costner leaning on a fence post there. So,
amazing.
You found it.
Well, so this is funny because we didn't plan this, but the book that I have to talk about today is also... It's a book about the behind the scenes of a TV show.
Oh my gosh, I love this.
So it's called The Office BFFs, Tales of the Office from Two Best Friends Who Were There. And it is by Jenna Fischer and Angela Kinsey.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
So you know Jenna and Angela as Pam and Angela, right? Isn't her name Angela on the show too?
Yes.
And Angela Martin, yes. Pam Beasley and Angela Martin on the show. The Office. And this is, of course, the American version with Steve Carell and Rainn Wilson and Oscar Nunez, so many other names on this show. BJ Novak. I mean, Mindy Kaling. You can go on and on and on with all of the different people who are on this show. And if you listen to their podcast, they have a very successful podcast, and it goes episode by episode to give you the behind the scenes of the entire show, told from the perspective of two best friends who were there. And so this book really takes a lot of those stories from that podcast, puts it into a book. I was listening to the audiobook of it, and it's very enjoyable. In the audiobook, there are some exclusive interviews. There's an introduction that Rainn Wilson does.
I love Rainn Wilson,
Steve
too.
Carell comes in and gives a little bit in there. And so other people pop in and add their 2 cents. So that's going to be something that you might get a little bit beyond the podcast. You might get a little bit beyond the book. I believe the things that Steve Carell and the other people add in the audiobook are written in the actual book. So that's going to be some of your your extra stuff. But some of the stories that, some of your favorite things that you learned on this show, they really go in and they tell you like some other things that were actually happening. Like in the chapter that they call The Booze Cruise, which is one of the episodes of the show.
I remember.
They are saying that, that it was one of like 2 episodes that they did not film on their soundstage or on set or something like that. And they actually went to a place and somebody rented a boat and they were filming, 13 hours a day on a boat. And so they were all getting seasick. And so some of the scenes where you see them like not like chucking their guts off the side of the boat, some of them had already been doing that all day long. Jenna Fischer tells this other story about how she was, it's a moment between Pam and, why have I just lost his other name? Pam and... Oh my gosh.
I've only had 1 cup of coffee. I'm not ready for this.
It just escaped me. Yeah. So anyway, it's a moment between the 2 main people.
Yes.
And they're standing there and they, Pam is kind of like finally saying, I'm annoyed with my boyfriend. And it's the other guy's opportunity to say,
yes,
I like you.
Yes.
And the director takes them aside and says, I know it's a comedy and it's all about punch, punch, punch and fast pace, but like take your time with this scene. It's important that this scene develops naturally. And so there's a moment of silence, like after she says, I'm like having a rough time with my boyfriend. And the fandom world counted 27 seconds past of silence, which is huge real estate in the comedy world, sitcom world. And so the director really fought they tell the story that the director really fought to keep that time in. And when the director kept that time in, the fans were like on the edge of their seat the whole time.
I remember it.
But she said, meantime, while that's happening, while they're having this beautiful 27-second moment that's huge in the series, the rest of the cast is on a dinghy getting transported back to the mainland. And it was pitch black. It was the middle of night. And they lost the dinghy.
Oh, no.
And so the scene is happening and they're having this beautiful moment and the director is off to the side and they get a we lost Phyllis and the dinghy. So the book is laugh out loud funny. That is only one of the stories that I will share with you that you will find in this book. It's called The Office BFFs. You can reserve it on Libby in both audiobook and ebook. You'll have a wait there. But the physical book, we have tons of copies in the catalog. And the book on CD, we have several copies in the catalog.
And that's a story I want. I hate the stories when I find out they don't like each other behind the scenes.
Best friends.
I love that. That makes the show even better for me.
They're all best friends. So, okay. Well, on the other half, we are going to come back and talk to Sean Miller, and we'll talk about the partnership between the Delaware County EMA and the Delaware County District Library. So
it's a great one.
Stay tuned. Thank you for joining us. I am Nicole Fowles at the Delaware County District Library. We're joined by my co-host, Molly Meyers LaBadie.
I'm here again.
Always happy to have you. Gage on the board.
Oh.
And Gage is bringing in our friend Sean Miller from the Delaware County Emergency Management Association to join us and talk a little bit about our partnership today. So hi, Sean.
Good morning.
First, Molly and I have to offer you congratulations because you have been with the Delaware County EMA for many, many years, but now you're going on to a new adventure. Do you want to say where that new adventure is?
Sure. I'll be going to the Ohio Emergency Management Agency next month as the Regional Operations Chief.
Congratulations.
Ohio is lucky to have you.
They really are. And I hear you'll also be reunited with our friend Sandy Mackey while you're down there.
Well, that's right. That's right.
We've got to stop stealing all of our good people.
Right.
I mean, I know we have other really good ones too, so we're still in good hands, right?
Absolutely. We're in excellent hands. Scott, JC, and Sean here. Yes, there are 2 Seans here in the office. They're terrific people, and they've got things well at hand.
They absolutely do. You guys have so much that you do. We're only going to touch on like a smallest little fraction of it today. But one of the things that we've partnered with the Delaware County EMA on is COVID tests.
Yes.
How has that partnership worked out?
It's worked out very well, and I think that the libraries working with emergency management is just the perfect fit because the libraries are open, they're accessible, they're well known throughout the county, and they provide very important public services to include COVID test kits over the years. And Molly, I know that we worked very closely.
We did.
With public health, and when those test kits became available, you guys took on the large logistical challenge of distributing those among your organizations or your branches, I should say, in the county.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they were a very hot commodity for a while.
Yes. And, we still are handing those out,
Mm-hmm.
and I still keep a set. Sean, one thing I don't think people always realize about the EMA, they know you exist, but I don't know that they know what a protective boundary you're putting over this county.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a force field of safety in my mind now, because when the COVID test came, libraries just sort of got brought into this crazy thing. And we were trying to keep up with those tests. And I remember being like, how am I going to pick them up? And then you called me. And it was like, here's the answer. I can't even tell you, like, my stress levels at that point dropped like 300 times because you called and I was like, how are we going to get them? We need to pick them up if we want to get them sooner. You helped me get in touch with all of the emergency management in the county, the firefighters, the police, the hospitals. You're still, your team still occasionally reaches out to me. You got me with the health department, and we were able to really make sure that we were getting those so we can get them to the people who needed them and keep the whole county safer that way.
Well, I'm glad it worked out.
That's just a day in your life, isn't it?
Day.
It was a huge day for me, but that's just what you do.
Well, emergency management does get pulled in a lot of different directions, and I think as a profession, as a career field over the past 5 years, it's gotten more attention than perhaps it has previously, and unfortunately, that might be partially to do with all the bad things that have gone on for the past 5 years, not the least of which is COVID.
Well, I think that's a good segue into something good that is coming up.
Yes.
It feels like it's forever away, but it's going to be here before we know it. And people probably don't realize we're already planning for it. And that is the total solar eclipse that is coming basically to cross Delaware County in 2024.
Yes.
So, Sean, can you say a little bit about how in the world does Delaware EMA or the state EMA get involved with a solar eclipse?
Well, not to be confused with a total eclipse of the heart. This is that joke has been made many times.
It won't get old. You're good.
The total solar eclipse is April 8th, 2024. I believe I got that date correct. JC with our office would not be pleased if I got it wrong. You might ask yourself on the surface, well, why is public safety looking at this? Why is emergency management looking at this? Well, back in 2017, the state of Kentucky had a similar event, and some of the smaller counties down there had their populations double or even triple with folks coming in to see this event, to watch it back in 17. And so nothing to be concerned about, just something to be aware of. And that's the way we're looking at it. A lot of opportunities with this. But we just want to make sure that the plans and procedures are in place to handle the increased traffic and the communications. And so one of the key points there is come early, stay late, stay put. And the idea there is to hopefully spread out the increase in traffic over a longer period of time. That way, your 71s, your 23s, your 315s, 42s, they're not overly burdened at any one time.
Yeah, because with more people becomes just the opportunity for more risk. The same things can happen every day. You can run out of gas, but then when you triple the opportunities for that, you have triple the people running out of gas and on the side of the highway. You have people who have, any sort of medical illnesses, and that just triples the opportunity for those sorts of things. But then you add traffic backups and all those things into it. And so, like you mentioned, public safety is at the forefront, and we just want to make sure that people have a great, safe experience.
And education, too. One of the things that we really want to make sure we get out there is eclipses are, amazing things to see, and you get so few opportunities, but there's a safe way to do it and an unsafe way. And I know the library's role in this is going to be a lot of the education and sharing information on safety across the board, from the roads to how do I view this? How do I know if my glasses are good? How do I, and being able to be in with the experts, which you've created a team of experts to work on this, is going to be extremely helpful. And, you really have pulled together some of the most important people for this in Delaware County.
Well, Delaware County has a lot going for it in this process, and we have a secret weapon in our back pocket, and that is Perkins Observatory.
Yes.
That's right.
And so they've been heavily involved. Don Stevens there, your director, has been heavily involved, and we appreciate his attendance at our planning meetings. But Delaware County specifically is within the zone of totality. I think Harlem Township, maybe part of Genoa, Trenton, southeast corner of the county might not be, but the rest of the county is. So on the whole, Delaware County will be a pretty good place to watch the eclipse. And then when you go north and west, that's kind of the main area. So Hardin County is going to be one of the best places in the state to watch. It's going to have one of the longest times of totality, and the eclipse will happen here in Delaware County about 3:11, 3:12 p.m. on April 8th, 2024. So
Right.
Pretty good viewing here. It only gets better as you go north and west, though.
It's going to be amazing. And when you say totality, because I had to even look like, what does that mean? It means midnight black. It means it is going to be midnight black for a period of time in the middle of the day. Like you said, 3 o'clock hour.
So awesome.
Yeah.
That's right. And these types of events are very rare for any given area. I mean, since the founding of this country, there have not been that many of these. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, most likely, at any given point. So certainly something to be excited about.
Well, Sean, it has been such a joy to have you join us today. How much longer can people see you in Delaware County?
I'll be around until March 2nd, but I'm still going to live here.
All righty. I know. I see your kiddos coming to school most mornings. All right. Well, Sean, it has been a joy, and stop by and have all your friends say hi to Sean until March 2nd. And we're going to go ahead and sign off because otherwise the city guys are going to yell at us. So,
And I don't want yelled at.
I don't want yelled at.
They're our friends.
All right, Sean, thanks for joining us.
Take care.
Molly, thanks for being my co-host.
Always love
and
it.
Gage, thank you for the board.
Anytime you're talking space, I'm totally
I
fine
know.
with
I
going
was like,
over.
I kept looking over to be like, how into this is Gage?
Until next week, we will see you in the stacks.